What's up, kid? Hector Rico here. So, which one of y'all is ready to hear some tripped out Hector Rico nonsense? And today I will be discussing my review. Because guess what? I finally saw the very first season of Yellowstone. And I'm going to be reviewing that and dropping some red pill knowledge on a lot of the stuff I saw in there. And let's see how it goes. So, first, I'm going to start off, instead of spoilers, because some of you probably haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to be reviewing all the different characters and all the stuff that I saw. Instead of actual, like, I'm trying not to talk too much about plots and stuff because some of you probably haven't seen it yet, but this is new to me. I don't really necessarily watch TV or movies anymore, but I just went ahead and saw this. And, okay. Well, here in Texas, we got this thing called King Ranch. It's this really famous ranch, and their logo, it looks like a wavy W. And I used to think, like, Yellowstone was this fictionalized version of King Ranch. I mean, here in Texas, it's like this big deal if you got a King Ranch edition truck, like a pickup truck. But I've seen them all over the country when I was trucking. And Yellowstone, their logo looks like a wavy letter Y, but it's yellow. So, I mean, I can't be the only one who's thinking that, right? Alright, cool. Okay. Before I get started, I just got to clear something up, okay? I'm not here to be trauma dumping. I'm not here to be whining about stuff. It's just that I'm going to be stating facts. And it's like, if you notice, I'm saying these stories because I'm looking back laughing at them. I got over it. It's like you tend to do that when you get older. You just look back at stuff and laugh at, like, man, was I ever that young and stupid? And, like, you have a whole new perspective on life and everything. So believe me, I'm not trauma dumping. I'm not whining. Just stating facts. What amazes me the most, because I can't be the only one thinking this, but pretty much any one of those wealthy characters, don't you just hate them? Like, you love to hate these characters. Like, instead of anti-heroes, you got like a bunch of hatred towards these people. And if there was a character that I actually like, for a lot of reasons, it would be, I think, is Jace, or what's the name of the guy that married the native girl? Jade or Jace or whatever his name is. And I love this character for so many reasons, man. Pretty much like in the Mexican community, you know, just by looking at him, you could tell who's the black sheep of the family. Like, he's completely shunned. His family wants nothing to do with him. They just shun him, just like Jace. He has pretty much the same disillusioned face like Jace. And he's always got that same story to tell. They always do. They always say the same thing. They always say like this. They go, my dad would only allow me to be a greasy wetback. And he would punish me if he ever thought I was going to amount to anything else. And they just sit there. And if you drink a beer with them or something, they don't even commiserate. They just kind of look at it like, another day goes by. They're like, I guess they have like burnout fatigue. Like, what's the whole point of even complaining about stuff? And that's how Jace looks like. Jace looks like pretty much like a Mexican dude. Like, he's white, but he has the same story to tell. With Jace, I think that's a man's downfall. Whenever, if you notice, everybody else on that Yellowstone ranch, What is it they all have in common? They all want the dad's validation. And the black sheep of the family, he's okay without anybody's validation. I'll just be honest with you. Call it whatever you want. You call me a Sigma male. You could say it's like my autism, my Asperger's syndrome. Growing up, there's maybe been about 2 or 3 adults that I ever wanted their validation. And by that I mean if I could live up to their standard, if I could make them proud, then I could sleep easy that night. And these 2 or 3 adults that I'm mentioning, they always looked out for my best interest. They wanted to see me level up. They weren't jealous of me. They gave me this unconditional love. They gave me this validation. You know? And that character, Jace, he realizes, he learns it early on too. Sometimes you're never going to get it, so just throw in the towel, man. You're fighting an uphill battle. You're never going to get your dad's validation. So what, man? Let everybody else destroy themselves trying to get it. Go do your own thing, man. And so he left that ranch, Yellowstone, and he married the native girl because he had to. He wanted to. And sure enough, they never really accepted him into that tribe. They just always looked at him like, well, he's white. You know? I guess I could see the hatred that, like, he comes from wealth. Why doesn't he fix up the res? But that's not up to him, you know? But they're always giving him a hard time. You could tell he didn't get validation at home. He's certainly not going to get it on the res. So he's even more like, he realizes, like, what is validation? Why do you need it? It's kind of like, there's a difference between your parents' validation and some girl getting her cell phone out and be like, all right, I need validation. I need some dopamine. Give me my fix. That's a whole different type of validation, okay? Men, we don't... When do we need male validation? In a way, I'd rather have morale instead of validation. So I could get the morale to get stuff done. You know? Rip. You're letting me down, Rip. Letting me down for a lot of reasons. That character, Rip, I guess he's supposed to be kind of like the Hoss Cartwright of Yellowstone. And it lets me down because here and there people would call me Hoss because of Hoss Cartwright. This big oaf that he's clearly the ranch muscle. There is one thing I do laugh at. Rip, what he does is he purposely hires the most incompetent group of morons, and because he's like the biggest, strongest one there, he kind of elevates them. So I guess it kind of works out and evens itself out, kind of. But the thing that just really just destroys me about Rip, he actually wants to start a relationship with that Beth or whatever her name is, the sister. Oy, I'm gonna need some aspirin to even think about talking about her. Isn't it kind of funny how, like, maybe it's me, but like there's this old school thing about like this white dad that has a daughter that he knows she's sleeping around. Like, Isn't it kind of like astounding? No matter what, you could be wealthy, you could be poor. There's no telling when a girl will just have all these weird daddy issues, like this Beth. And it's like, man, where do I begin with this piece of garbage? I don't. All right. Give me a minute. I'm only telling this story because there's red pills for you guys. And if I tell this story, you're going to have to actually learn from it because there's a bunch of lessons you could draw from it. Okay? Me, I don't care. This happened half a lifetime ago. When I was a youngster, about early 20s, 2021, around there, I met the real life version of this Beth Dutton. She was probably the most wealthiest, most corrupt white woman I ever met. And sure enough, dude, like, Beth is a textbook narcissist. And just like Beth in real life, they'll tell you within 5 minutes, they'll straight up tell you they're going to sleep with you. And they mean it. Just like she does with Rip, just like she does with that old white dude, and all this other nonsense. And then, let's see here. Pretty much anything Beth does is like the typical textbook red flag. If you see it, run away, cut these people off, especially if it's a girl. Like, a narcissist is a human parasite. What she really wants to do is like, let me see, all that stuff you see her doing, trying to compete with men and all this and that. Like, basically, she's really masculine. And if you notice, maybe you haven't noticed, masculine women will drain you. They just will. There's not a nurturing bone in their body. It's just, you're getting with a human parasite. Even worse, she's going to drain you of all your masculine logic. What Beth really wants to do, pretty much any guy she encounters, she's going to play all these stupid little games with him. She wants to make sure the guy puts her in the center of his universe. If that makes sense. Like, she wants to make sure he never thinks about doing anything else. And it's like Beth is a waking nightmare. The thing that does make me laugh about her is kind of like no matter what, she will listen to her dad. Daddy's little girl always listens carefully to what the dad just said. She'll tell everybody else like a joke, but she'll take her dad seriously. And I love it. That's cool. That's her only redeeming quality. Okay, the dad. The dad has a lot of weird things to look at, but ultimately, I kind of don't like him. I don't like any of the wealthy characters. The dad, he's pretty much what you would consider the working class hero. He's going to be working the whole rest of his life, and he's never going to retire. And it's like, you guys don't know it yet, but after your midlife crisis when you turn 40, the next big step is when you turn 60. Because what's going to happen when you're 60 is like, are you going to be flat broke? Are you going to be a pensioner? Don't be thinking that SSI is going to help you, man. They don't even want to help you now. So I admire his work ethic. And that's about it. The dad, freaking, he has that look on his face, and I don't know if you ever seen it. Some of you seen it in real life, but I see it a lot more like on like the Spanish novellas. He's that dad that has this look on his face like all he's thinking about is how am I going to control my next family member? And that's all he does. And like I said, they're all looking for his validation. They're never going to get it. It's pretty much their own downfall. And to me, I look at it like that Jimi Hendrix song, that Castles Made of Sand. You could spend your whole life building an empire, but it'll just mean nothing. Once you're gone, then what do you do? He has, if you notice, everybody else just thinks they have all this power, but they don't. The dad's the only one that has a chip on his shoulder. That's about it. Those wants this joke, but it's real. Well, I guess it's kind of like a joke. And you kind of tell it, you're like, hey man, what's the difference between a millionaire and a man with $1 million? The millionaire is going to live a certain lifestyle where it all revolves around him keeping that net worth. The man with $1 million, he could throw it away in a year if he wins the lottery or something or other. He has no idea what kind of power that really is. And I guess this is the part where I saved the best for last. Racism is like a blanket term. It's just a generic term. You can't really just say racism. There's different types. And what's it called? To me, I've seen all sorts of crazy things going on in life. To me, the most heartbreaking racism is whenever some adult male discriminates against a child. And it disgusted me so much that the dad couldn't just look at his grandson and say, hey, look, here's my legacy. Because his child was half Indian. And that just like, I don't know why that just broke my heart so much to see him doing that. And later on, you come to discover that he told his son to basically abort it. That was horrifying. That was horrible. You guys, one thing this show got right. Whenever you get the chance, I want you to look up this hashtag. It's the letters MMIW. It stands for Missing Murdered Indigenous Women. There's this book, if you get a chance, read it. I can't remember the author, but the name of the book is called Forever Loved, talking about missing murdered Indigenous women. Still to this day, that book gives me nightmares from all the horrifying stuff that happened in there. And an Indian casino will usually cause way more harm than good. And that millionaire that you see, that millionaire Indian guy, like, I mean, him trying to get a white guy's haircut and blend in, and some of you guys know where I'm going with this. You heard that old saying, how's it go, that kill the savage, save the man? And That's what I think about when I see that this guy actually, like, I guess you could say he assimilated. And a couple of years ago, I spent a few weeks on this Indian reservation in Canada. And here's an example of systemic racism. They had this oil refinery right next door to it. So it's purposely harming you every day. They did that on purpose. Before, I didn't have any facial hair. The only reason I have facial hair, it's a side effect from medicine. I didn't have no facial hair. Uh, my dad's a Cultecan Indian. If you notice that thumbnail picture thing, it says Camino Cultecan, Camino Coahuila, something like that. Camino translates to road, path in Spanish. Cultecan is this nomadic Indian thing. Um, do your own research on that one. Cultecan Indian. I'm burnt out, man. I had a really rough week. I got rid of my COVID a couple days ago. The only side effect I really have is, like, on occasion, excuse me, on occasion I'll get like these like dizzy spells, and I'll get this weird fatigue. I'm still trying to walk it off. I don't have COVID anymore. I just it just took a lot out of me to have it, because if I didn't know any better, I had that new variant that they talk about on the news. Um, don't forget to hit like, comment, share, and subscribe.